Stephanie, where are you from, if I may ask?
Yeah, hey everybody. I
Sounds
mean,
familiar.
where are we all really from? No, I'm just kidding. To go real deep here, but I'll take it at face value. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm originally from South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia.
What part of Atlanta? Because Atlanta's big. There's
Atlanta is large. I am currently in West Midtown, so right by Georgia
oh,
Tech. So
okay.
people are staying in
Well,
that area.
I used to live in Forsyth, not
Okay.
county, not the county,
No, the area.
town. That
Yes,
was
yes.
literally at the time that I lived there, 2,700 and something people.
It's a lot bigger now.
Oh, I'm sure because they did the whole I-75 renovation and expanded
Yep.
everything. Yeah. I remember the elders bitching about that. But that's a beautiful country.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I like being here in Midtown. I don't know if I'll be here long term, but right now I enjoy it. And then being so close to Georgia Tech and having such brilliant people around me, I hope like osmosis helps with that. We'll see.
Awesome. So we're here tonight or this afternoon to talk about the Akashic Records.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and my understanding, I haven't communicated with you.
Mhm.
So I apologize if I get something wrong, but yeah, your ability to tap into them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I apologize if I get something wrong.
So if you would allow myself for a moment, sorry, our cat loves a piece of newspaper that's been laying there for about a month and a half. Uh, she attacks it every chance she gets. Um, but I would like to explain what that means to a lot of our viewers, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So the Akashic Records, it could be you can look at it from a spiritual perspective as well as a quantum physics perspective. I'm gonna stay on the spiritual side. So basically the idea is that the Akashic Records are an energetic library of everything that ever has, ever does, and ever will exist. So that is mind-blowing. So I'm gonna bring it back down to make it a little bit more understandable. It's the idea that whether you believe in reincarnation, so a soul that comes down here many times to incarnate on Earth,
Right.
or if a soul comes down and you just believe we got one go around, whether you believe it or not,
Right.
the idea is that that information for each of those lifetimes is held somewhere, right? As well as
That's the
events,
rude awakening when
places.
they realize that it's not just one go around.
Right. I mean, I definitely am on the reincarnation side for sure, but
Yeah.
I like to say insert your beliefs here because I never want to, put my beliefs on someone else, but I like to kind of open the door for this, right? Because it
Right.
is kind of heady. But what I would say is that the Akashic Records, you've heard about them. And when I say you, I mean humans since 2000 years ago have been talking about them. So if you look in the Bible, it's called the Book of Life. If you look in Hinduism, it's actually called the Akashic Records. The word Akasha means ether. And so it is a really beautiful spiritual, we like to think of it as like a library. It's the easiest way to understand it. And so what I'll walk people through
Library of everything that has happened, is happening,
and
and
will
will
happen.
happen.
Yeah.
And I love and I apologize. I'm gonna just interject a couple things.
Please do. Go right ahead.
You touched on a couple things, like, well, so first of all, the word Akashic, and I am using a prompt that I created because I am not as knowledgeable as apparently you are, because I don't see a prompt in front of you in your glasses.
There are no prompts. This is
Yeah,
straight from my head, but that's why I apologized if anything was wrong.
well, and I apologize because I may type something wrong. In any event, what I found is the word Akashic is not only a noun, but it's a verb because it represents, the word Akashic represents something that is physically there,
Yes.
but it's also a verb because the action to achieve it
To
takes
record it. Yep.
takes effort. Um, It's derived from the Sanskrit word Akash,
Mhm.
which, as you stated, I smiled when you said it. It represents the ether
Mhm.
or the sky, or space, depending on, and then in some interpretations, the void. But if there's information out there, it's not a void.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that I adhere to that particular thought process, but I kind of, yeah, okay. So
Yep.
I apologize again for interrupting, but
No apologies. I mean, we're here to have a conversation. When I listen to podcasts, the best kinds of podcasts are the ones where people are conversing and not just one person talking all the time. So I'm here for it.
so kind of like the cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, what we look at as information technology or the information highway.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And what's interesting is there's another like correlating kind of component to that that I talk about in that how we ask questions in the Akasha or to the Akashic records is really important, just like ChatGPT or any AI that you're using, right? So if you ask a really broad question, it's going to give you a broad answer, right?
Right.
And so for some of us that work in technology, we might know the phrase garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you put in garbage data, you're going to get garbage data out. And so the same thing happens in the Akashic records. And I know that's taking us down kind of further down the rabbit hole. But I just wanted to bring it
I
back to
love the
the
rabbit
way to explain
hole.
it. I do too.
And
I
I
love it too.
love the rabbit hole. We actually had a discussion last night about the rabbit hole. And, and I think it related to this, didn't it?
It did, because we were actually
We were in a debate about
Okay.
how
that started with us watching an episode of Ancient Aliens that had to deal with the Akashic Records.
Love that.
So,
and then we had our differing points of view on the information that was split or laid out, um, along with our own research that we did while we were watching. Look, we're that kind of couple. We'll watch a show and we'll each do our own. Something caught our attention, and I will search that, and something else caught her. She will search that, and then we get into a debate. So, anyway,
I always say take what resonates with you, what feels true in your body and in your heart, and kind of run with that, right? And
yes,
so for me, some of this, they're like, oh, you're a subject matter expert on the Akashic Records. No, I'm not. The Akashic Records are everything that's ever existed. I'm only an expert in how I
it
work
never will exist.
and never will
Never
exist.
will.
So for me, I'm only in, and I wouldn't even say expert. I'm only, I think we're all beginners, but I'm only practiced in what my experience is with them. And so I'm happy to speak to that all day long.
Well,
But I
see,
would never say I'm an expert in the Akashic Records.
right. No, and I've had people approach me about different subjects, and I get that feeling. It's like, no, I'm not an expert. I'm just like you. I'm here for the experience and to hopefully help someone, but grow in the process. And so
yeah,
I get that.
I think that's why it's so important that we do this episode, because we started this podcast as a way of showing other like newer, which is that, it's okay to stumble. It's okay to not feel like you have everything buttoned down, because I've been at this like 27 years and I don't have everything buttoned down. But,
Totally.
especially with something like the Akashic Records, I have very little experience with it, but it's something I want to learn more about. And so I think this is a really important episode for us to do.
And for me, it's a little bit different in that oh, I totally lost my train of thought. I hate it when that friggin' happens.
Well, when you come back to it, it'll pop back in your head.
When
I
it's
will
supposed to, it will.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all right. So with all the research that I've done, and it's not just in the last couple days or weeks since we were going to do this episode, this is actually a hot topic for me
Mhm.
for a hot goddamn time. So the concept of someone that can tap into the Akashic records by ancient thoughts is you are enlightened, or you have an understanding of the cosmos, and doesn't mean that you can fly through the air
Yeah.
or stop a bullet or
I
go
mean,
faster than a speeding train.
and I wish I could. I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but what I would say is that everyone has the ability to tap into the records. We're
Thank you.
just not
And
taught.
that's the
I would,
point I was getting to, but
yeah, I would also
not
say that
everybody taps into that.
no, that's exactly it. And that's kind of why I'm starting to make the rounds just to talk about the records. Do I have a business? Absolutely. Will I talk about it? Sure, if you want me to. But it's more to me about talking about the Akashic Records and knowing that most people don't know very much about it. So, how do we make them more modern? How do we let everyone know that they have the ability to tap into their own record of their lifetime or lifetimes? And that if they were to study,
That's
they
the
could
key.
potentially
Most
tap in
people
a
don't
different way.
realize there are lifetimes, plural.
Right.
Uh,
Again, I believed lifetimes plural, but
yeah.
for me, it's empowering. It's another modality. So when we talk about, looking at being a modern witch, what does that look like? And I went down many different modalities before I got here. So whether it was learning about natural incense and herbs, whether it was astrology, human design, tarot, oracle cards,
I just
numerology,
remembered.
all of these different modalities. It got me to Akashic Records, but just like any modern witch, you're going to follow where your heart takes you.
Right. And what I just really, you don't have to be a witch to tap into the Akashic
Not
records.
even a little bit.
Like, yeah, and I'm a witch. I'm saying that as a witch. You don't
Yeah.
have to be a witch. It's just meditation, focusing the mind, focusing your energy, whatever it takes for you to be able to get to that mindset.
That's exactly it. So if we talk about accessing the records, anyone can access them. It does take some practice, some meditation, that sort of thing. And what I would say is like there are three different ways, right? So it's also kind of a choose your own adventure, which is exciting and can be frustrating. But I would say that, you could look at it as some people will do a guided meditation. Some people will use what we call a pathway prayer. So the syllables in the prayer unlock your ability to connect. You still have to be able to meditate and vibrate
A
higher.
mantra,
Yeah.
a mantra.
Or some people can just do it with an intention, right? And so there's so many ways to connect. And I think that that's really powerful because the other thing that I'd be here to tell everyone in your whole community is that everyone has spiritual gifts. That's exciting. The problem is that you don't know what gifts you have. Everybody is different. And so, how I might access the records and interpret information is going to be different than maybe you. But I think it's so exciting to hear, oh my God, we all have spiritual gifts. Yeah, absolutely. It's just whether or not you choose to take the time to learn them and to foster them. I look at it as like if you and I were 3 years old and one of us can play Bach on the or Beethoven on the piano and the other one doesn't even know what a piano is, right? Because some things are just going to come natural. It's like playing a sport. It's just unfortunately, and as we know with, and being, modern witchcraft, we're not taught this in school. We're not taught how to interact with the land or with our gifts or any of those things. And so I like to tell everybody, like, I am not special. By any means, I am not special. I have just put time into this. And so whether you work with someone like me or someone that can access the records, but know that whether it's records or mediumship or anything like that it comes with practice. You just kind of have to go on this adventure to figure out what are my gifts and how do I speak to something that is unseen.
Well, the only thing I would disagree with is that you are special and everybody like you.
Everyone is special.
Everybody, well, in their own way, yes, but I mean those that are um of the warrior class,
Yeah. Yeah.
fighting for a lost knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, I appreciate you and everyone like you. I
Thank you.
like to think of myself as the
I was
same.
going to say, I would say the same to you guys
That
as
would be
well.
kind of egotistical for me to say about myself, but
Well, I had heard an interesting quote on a podcast, and I cannot tell you for the life of me which one it was, but the person was speaking about the light warriors, right? And they say, we are not warriors in the traditional sense that we are fighting. we are warriors and that we are seeing our darkness and we're facing our shadows and we're bringing light. Not only are we facing our own, that's the warrior, but also that we are bringing light. We're facing them, we're growing, and then we're bringing that growth to other people. And so that's
Well,
turning lights on for other people as well.
some of us are doing the best we can.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
Uh,
So,
so your personal method or technique, if you don't mind me asking,
yeah,
to
absolutely.
is it candles? Is it incense? Is it just sitting quietly with your favorite music playing? I mean, what is your technique for connecting?
So it begins with me having to get my vibration up in my body. So I must be feeling healthy. I can't be going through anything super emotional. It's really a check-in with my body. From
This
there,
is something you just, hey, I'm gonna connect right now. Just leave me the F alone. And
um, well,
it's a little
finish.
bit more.
It's going to be more than that. So first, I'm just going to know my general sense of how I'm feeling, right? Then
Right.
I'm going to do something to lift my vibration, my spirit, and my body. For me, sometimes it's just putting on Stevie Wonder and dancing and singing around my house, right? It could be some booty music from the 90s. So for me, I really like to dance and do that sort of thing. Sometimes it's getting on the Peloton for 20 minutes behind me. So it's just something that's going to lift up my emotions and get me excited. Next, what I'll sit down and do is energetic hygiene, so protection. So I'm going through, I'm connecting through the earth, I'm rooting into that, I'm connecting out to the cosmos, really anchoring myself between the cosmos and the earth, clearing any energetic cords that no longer serve me so that I'm not bringing any of that into a reading, and then calling in guides to kind of just, be there for protection, make sure we're getting anything only of the light and of love. From there, I'll have if I'm doing a reading for someone else, not myself, I'll have the permission to go into their record. So I must have their full name, current full name, and permission from them. And I will say a prayer. So there's a prayer that came along with the lineage that I did as far as Akashic Record teachers. But there are many prayers that are public that you can find. And then what I will do is I will start to actually physically feel a connection in my chest. So I will feel almost like a little pressure on my chest. It feels like it's like pulling up because it's connecting with my heart chakra.
Right.
When I originally started, I actually felt it in my third eye and my heart chakra. It felt like they were kind of pulling slash pushing me down in my third eye. And then I felt a little bit in my chest. Now I mostly just feel it in my chest.
Okay.
And so then I will know, like I do a prayer specifically to open the records. And so I will do that and then I will start to get information. For me, I am not clairvoyant. So or I won't say that's a strong statement.
Well,
Clairvoyant,
that's almost a description of clairvoyance, though. So you're
yeah.
doing an Akashic record uh, for an individual?
Yeah, so I've done individuals, I've done businesses. So I've done my business as well as other people's businesses. I've also, this weekend, I opened the Akashic record for an apartment that was, excuse me, a condo that they were trying to sell. And went and did an energetic cleaning of the actual space, but did it within the record of that actual address, which is really interesting. Um, yeah. And so I will also, once I kind of connect, clairvoyance is not my strongest gift. So that's clear seeing. So that's being able to either see in my third eye, like almost as if you were like watching a movie screen in your
Right,
head,
right, right. From third
right?
person in a video game.
Yeah, yeah. Or some people have it in that they can actually see auras around people, right? Or things like that in the physical. Not my strongest gift. So for me, it's going to be clear audience, clear hearing, probably why I love podcasts so much. It's going to be clear cognizance, which means there's downloads of information that are coming into my brain, but it's not information that I know. And then also clairsentience, so feeling things in my body. So I could either feel chills or I could feel if you have an injury. So it's all about feeling, whether it's like physically or kind of psychically. The other thing that sometimes happens if I'm in a reading, sometimes loved ones that have passed show up. And so once in a while, I will do some mediumship that will come through. That burns my energy a little bit more. So
Wow.
hopefully, if I feel like there might be some mediumship coming through for a reading, I will be dancing a lot to Stevie Wonder.
Right, right. When you first mentioned that, I thought of as far as building energy. the who is it? The people do it as a prank. I feel good. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah.
Said
Little Richard.
Little Richard. Yeah, that's a great one for building energy. Sorry, I digress. So okay, I never actually thought of doing Akashic Records readings for individuals. I always envisioned it as one of those things like Da Vinci,
Yeah.
Tesla. I mean, they tapped into something way beyond us, way beyond us. I mean,
Absolutely.
Da
I
Vinci
love
was creating inventions that wouldn't be seen into fruition for 500 or 1,000 freaking years.
Yeah, I would actually say that a lot of us are accessing the Akashic Records and we don't even know it. And so an example would be before I started doing this work, I was an officiate for weddings. And it kind of came about when people basically said, I won't marry same-sex couples. And I said, well, if you're not going to do it, I sure as hell will, because I have no problem with public speaking.
I don't.
And so I did end up marrying same-sex and opposite-sex couples. Like within that. And my whole thing was I helped them write their ceremonies from beginning to end. So it was custom to them because I know sometimes you've been at, say, weddings or funerals where the person kind of goes off and you're like, who found this guy? What is happening? Right. And so for it to be such a special, and like also, I feel like some of the ceremony that we know in weddings is pretty old. So it's like, how do we bring a new language and new spirit that really reflects the couple? And so I would meet with the couple a few times and then start to write their ceremony. And then I would kind of like every time I would think, God, they may hate it, they might come back to me and say we don't like any of it. And every time they don't be like, we only have one or two changes. And then even when I would get up and do the actual ceremony, I would just say a quick prayer to source, hey, be with me with this, da da da. And then I get up there, perform the whole ceremony and forget it immediately. Like couldn't even remember. Like I'll remember it went well or laughing, but I would come off and completely and I was channeling. And so I think a lot of us that are creative, we're channeling, we're tapping into that. Whenever you think, oh my God, I'm in flow, or I've been doing something I'm so interested in it, and I just looked up and an hour went by, a lot of times you're channeling,
We,
um,
we were
tapping into
talking
that.
about that last night.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly it. I just wanted to point out that like a lot of people, so when we think about even people that write, computer code, sometimes they're channeling, right? Because they look up and they're like, holy crap, what happened?
I have
Or people that cook and are putting together incredible recipes. It doesn't mean that it's not coming from them, but I think it's also coming from their higher self and from the Akashic Records.
interesting. So there was a whole nother direction I wanted to go for a second. Related, obviously, but totally lost it.
So I was talking about performing weddings, channeling, making custom ceremonies, forgetting like after.
Already know me too well. You're repeating some of the shit we've already said. I try to refresh my memory.
That's exactly it. I'm trying to get you to get your memory to jog.
Um, it involved the Akashic Records, obviously.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about. But one of the things that I found that I didn't even realize until 10 years ago. And we had this conversation last night. I used to sit, I'm ADHD, OCD, like every freaking abbreviation you could come up with. And I would sometimes, yes, I smoke some weed. However, that did not create a situation where I sat thinking about one specific task for an hour and a freaking half.
Yeah.
And how can I make that task better? How can I make that task easier? And literally I can think of one right off the top of my head. It would take me a little bit more time to think of the others, but there were at least 3 situations where I was like, oh, this would be a great freaking idea. We have it's hard plastic, it wraps around the tire. So when you spray your Armor All, it doesn't come back in your freaking face. How how much does that suck when armor all blows back in your face? Now, I was probably 10 or 12 and didn't think about like, you know, holding it back or not. And I just was like spraying. And 6 months later, something's released on the market, one of those as seen on TV things. Now, it didn't last long. It didn't last long at all, but they still made a decent amount of money, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where like ideas come from, you know. One of the exercises that I like to tell people about that is like, you know, pretty anyone can do is if you need an idea and I learned about this from a high school English teacher, but I believe that it directly applies to tapping into the records. So he used to say, if you need an idea for a paper, or you need help, you write it down, physically write it down, piece of paper, fold it up, put it under your pillow, go to bed, wake up the next day, and you will have the information that you need. That's always worked for me. Now, obviously, I can tap in more creatively now, but I didn't understand that the principle there to me is that you're basically asking the universe for help for a download before you go to sleep. And when you wake up, those ideas, that information is there, as well as, and I use this in my readings, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those, but the idea is that when you physically, energetically write something down, it is putting energy out into the universe.
Right.
And so the idea is there's a powerful part in that as well.
Exactly. And I think that was part of what I was getting at in that it just, if we focus on something, we don't even have to necessarily realize that we're meditating, but we're meditating on it.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Bringing the energy to make a better situation. I'm sorry, we have a slight technical difficulty.
Oh, okay.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay. So a few things that I would talk about is one, we didn't bring this up earlier, but the Akashic Records have actually even made it into the Marvel movies. So I don't know if you guys have seen Doctor Strange or any of his movies, but I believe the last one, he goes into the quantum records and it has to do with, it is the Akashic Records. And I don't know exactly what they call it. It popped in my head.
Are you talking about in Infinity Wars when he was going through the whole like 50 million different scenarios to find the one that would work to beat?
That's possible, but I believe it's the second Doctor Strange actual movie where he's actually there like in parts where they're like finding information, they're seeing all these connections. To me, that's a representation of the records. Again, I need to get some more. It just popped in my head, so I'd have to get more.
No, that definitely
talk about it.
Well, I find the Marvel universe very interesting because they touch on a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Wanda.
Yeah.
Now, witchcraft and magic does not manifest in the brilliant light show that Wanda and Doctor Strange portray. However, it still happens. That energy is still gathered, that energy is still put forth. And the same is with the Akashic Records to access them. Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer.
Okay.
I
absolutely believe too that just like witchcraft as well as Akashic Records, this is all things that are real, but science can't explain it yet. Right. So like if we think about it, when people start pushing, you know, on me, and to some degree, actually, I believe his name is Ervin Laszlo. He's a Nobel prize winning scientist, has already kind of come out with some quantum around that. Right. But what I like to talk about is like science, like doctors still can't explain how we have thoughts or where they come from. So like if they can't explain that, right, then, but we know that we have thoughts, we know that they are real. Why wouldn't the Akashic Records or principles of witchcraft be true? We just can't explain it with modern science yet.
Right. I mean, anything that can't be explained by science is witchcraft, and witchcraft is just science that we don't understand yet.
Exactly.
But yeah, we got everything. Hi, you're back.
Hey guys.
Sorry about that.
All right.
But so for you, you personally, you do meditation.
I
Do you
do.
use incense or any kind of music or
I
anything to get into
do.
the
Yeah,
zone?
yeah. I love incense. The smell, like, is a very such a strong, beautiful way to like get you into or out of a funk. Or
Right,
I shouldn't say into a funk, but out of a funk, right? To change your body, your headspace, that sort of thing.
right.
So I have meditation that I kind of collect when I travel. It's one of my favorite suvies or souvenirs, right? Depending on where you're at. I also think that it just helps to clear, right? So when I don't have to clear a space every single time, a little bit of incense, copal, palo santo, anything like that is going to be beautiful as long as, we're using it respectfully and that it's been harvested respectfully. I would put that out there, as you guys know, especially with palo santo. The other thing I talk about too is if anybody ever visits my website, meditation is so important. And I think there's
Your
a lot of,
website.
hmm?
What is your website?
Oh, well, the name of my company is a little bit out there, so I'll give you the easy website. It's stephanienicolepotter.com. But the name of my company is,
NicolePotter.com.
yeah, the name of my
Potter with two
company is,
T's.
go ahead.
Potter with two T's.
Yeah.
Yes, just like Harry.
PH.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
So
Just wanted to put that, make sure that we clarify for the
yep,
viewer.
absolutely. And I can send you guys information to have it in the show notes if you like. But
Absolutely.
yeah, one of the things that I talk about on my website on the first page, and I'm working actually on a quiz right now, is about meditation. Because a lot of people, whether it be for witchcraft or anything like that, are looking to meditate, but it seems really hard because they're like, oh, I tried that a few times. I tried to sit in a quiet room and close my eyes and get all the thoughts out of my head. And that's virtually impossible, even for most monks, right? That's very hard to do. And so I like to remind people, but there's so many different kinds of meditation, right? That can help you when you're trying to clear your mind or re-energize your body, clear your energy, so many different things. And so one of the things I have on my website is a downloadable PDF that talks about all these different kinds, but also links to free insight timer meditations that I recommend. They are not me. I do not have a voice for meditation, but I'm happy to recommend others. And so to me, that's powerful. The other thing I'm working on is a quiz where you can answer 6 or 7 questions about yourself. And then it will give you the 2 types of meditation that are the best aligned for you, as well as those free meditations. So I
Right.
think that'd be really neat for people to just kind of share with your community, that if they think that one, just closing your eyes and like getting anything in your head out, it's kind of a misnomer. The idea is to let those things come up. I see them either float away on clouds or float away on balloons. And that can be really helpful in any of your modern witchcraft practices.
Right. And well, and then there's another, I personally, I use, or I found, Eckhart Tolle
Hmm.
and the
Mhm.
Power of Now.
Yep.
That book I have read, God, at least 4 times over the last 12 years, maybe. And I probably should read it again. Actually, now that I think about it, that's a long time to only read it 4 times. I've given away
Half a dozen copies.
more than
At
actually.
least.
I used to buy them just to give them away. But in the book, I found that his method, now it may not work for everybody, but for me, it allowed me the opportunity to actually somewhat kind of quiet the mind
Yeah.
long enough to get to that point that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really a simple question: what will be my next thought?
Mhm.
That was a key in the book. It was like to his meditation was what will be my next thought, and that kind of like dumbfounds the mind. It's like, well, what will be my next thought? Right.
Right. It kind of stops you in your tracks for
Yeah.
sure.
But yes, so that's awesome that you shared all this with us, and we appreciate it very much.
Of course, yeah. I just kind of feel like I want to be a representative for the records. I don't know that I'm like that they would have hired me because I work for free. But the idea to me is that I think there's a powerful crossover for anyone that's in any kind of spirituality, right? Whatever that looks like for each person. And I think the records can be an interesting tool, whether you're working through somebody that can access them, or whether you go into your own record and start to train to be able to do that. Because I think there's some really cool.
I still find it freaking amazing you're doing it for other people, kind of like a reading, but I mean, it is, but it's not.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain a little bit about what my readings like feel like as far as that goes?
Yes, please.
Sure.
So for me, what I do is essentially when you book a reading with me, I essentially will, I just said essentially way too many times. I will. You will give me permission to go into you will say, yes, I give you permission to go into my record, which you need permission to go into somebody else's record. And then you'll give me your full name and that's it. 24 up to 24 hours before the reading, I will ask somebody to physically write out 3 questions. So again, pen to paper, write out 3 questions, and then I send them details about how to ask the best questions in the records. Um, and I will do a download before the reading. So whether it's the day before or 24 hours before or even 30 minutes before, I will go into their records and I will go and basically I access your higher self or your soul because I'm going into your record for this incarnation. And so I'm writing out paragraphs for about 30 minutes of the information that's coming through. They're giving me examples, they're giving me like obviously words of wisdom, they're telling me things about you, and I'm writing it all down. When we meet, I will sit down with you. We will open your record together so you can feel the energy of being in your own record, which I think is a powerful practice, whether you feel it when we're actually doing the reading or afterwards, because that will open doors as well. I will go through the download and then I'm channeling because I'm in your record, and we'll go through your questions. 9 times out of 10, the download that I do, even though I've not seen your questions, covers 2 to 3 of your questions. Now we'll go in, dive in deeper. When I'm channeling with you in your record, I'm actually then speaking to your team in spirit. So there I'm talking to your spirit guides, angels, loved ones that have passed, masters of the records, people that work record keepers, whatever your beliefs in, insert them there, but that's generally who I'm talking to. And so they're a little bit, the download from your higher self is like, what does your soul want you to know right now to make your life better, right? To make you happier, to be excited, to give you clarity, to help you heal. So that's kind of big picture stuff. But then when we get into your questions, your guides that are around you, whatever you believe in, they've got more practical things that come through. And so we talk about those. And so all of that is recorded. You get an MP3. I use an AI to do notes. So they will summarize your whole readings that's sent with you. And then afterwards, you get all of the recommendations. So if they've brought up a book, a type of therapy, another practitioner, themes that you should get to know, anything that comes up, I kind of send that out as well. What's interesting is that a lot of people after a reading will close your records together, but for 24 to 36 hours afterwards, they will start to either get downloads, so information, just ideas. They might have visitations from people that have passed in their life, so like crazy dreams or actual visitations. And then sometimes they just feel like kind of lit up. And so even the day of a reading, I will tell somebody, drink a ton of water, drink some electrolytes, because it's an energetic practice to be in your records. And then avoid alcohol, at least for those 24 hours.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's I'm happy it's changing every time. Like I'm just trying to get better and better at it being a channel because it's not information, it's not my information. I have to put my ego to the side. And so it's about bringing information about how people can connect. And what's interesting and as a crossover with witchcraft is we find too that people that I can either see in past lives sometimes I'll see like they are super connected to it might be like the earth, right? So they have connection like very much to the earth. And so they will give me practices that that person can do to connect better with their soul or to be happier or change their energy. It might be like actual intentional grounding, right? Feet
Right.
on the ground and in the space. Could
Right.
be working with the wind, the rain. It's really interesting.
Very cool. And how
Very.
long have we been doing this?
I have been doing this. I think my first classes were in 2020. for Akashic Records, but I've been studying metaphysics for about 15 years. I just wasn't actually doing the work until about 2018.
No, I understand that. I
Yeah.
was first introduced to Wicca or witchcraft at 10 and
Yeah.
scared the crap out of myself and didn't come back for another 20 or 30 years, but awesome. Well, did you have anything?
I don't think so.
Your website again.
Yeah. So StephanieNicolePotter.com. And what you'll see is it'll switch you over to the website's name is Alcyone Akasha. And that is such a bad name for somebody that's trying to get into business, right? Because like those words people don't really know. But what Spirit has kind of told me is since you're going to be a representative for the Akashic Records, like just bringing them more modern into people's lives. Alcyone is actually a star in the Pleiades and in the Taurus. Um,
Right.
in Taurus, it's the brightest star in the Pleiades.
Right.
And it is said that there's an energetic kind of outlet or outpost for the Akashic Records there. Um, I did not choose that name. Yeah, I didn't choose that name. I actually came to Spirit and was like, listen, this is the day based on astrology that I am registering this LLC. I know it wanted to be Akasha, but I cannot come up with a word before that, right? Like, and it can't just be Akasha LLC, right? I need something. And everything that I wanted to use, somebody else had already kind of branded or used. So I basically said to Spirit, come up with something. And they showed me that word. That's where clairvoyance, I did actually see that word. I didn't know what it meant. So I was on a trip down to Florida to visit my mom. I stopped for lunch and registered that LLC and then later found out the connection to the Akasha. And so I use Stephanie Nicole Potter. You can find me on Instagram at Stephanie Nicole Potter, but you will see that as soon as you open my website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time with us tonight.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Your knowledge, your info, and your insight. Very much so. And I personally hope that this will not be our last collab.
Same. I think this might just be the beginning. So thank you so much for sharing me with your community. And any questions I can answer about the records going forward. I'm your woman as best I can.
Awesome. You have a wonderful night and enjoy. I know it's only midweek, but have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what we look like. How is it going to show? Is it going to be a split screen?
Well, no, we're not doing a video for this one.
What?
It's going to be audio only.